Dude, I have to thank Schuler for having you come by, man. That was like a really cool hookup that he made through a connection between you and I. You're both on the Voice alumni, Philly native as well. When did you move to California, by the way? It wasn't too
Moved
long
to
ago,
California.
right?
Yeah, I moved like pretty much right after The Voice ended, so like beginning of 2015-ish. And I was just back and forth for a bunch of years. I wasn't really, like, definitely like living out of a suitcase for the first probably at least year and a half, 2 years after The Voice, just traveling a lot. And yeah, and then I kind of started to really give LA the old college try, and was ready to move somewhere else until I discovered the East Side and moved to Silver Lake, and I've been here for like 2.5 years now and just love it over here. It's great.
Hell yeah. And I'm sure there's like a lot of opportunities out there for you, being in the music industry with that such. That was probably one of the incentives to move out there.
Well, yeah, I think, right. Like, as soon as I got off the show, there was a lot. I mean, there was more opportunities for me with the show, even. I mean, I did some work like hosting a podcast with The Voice and other type of things, where it was nice to be out there, and I drive onto the Universal lot. So that was good. I grew up like really interested in skating and surf culture and stuff, and I think LA was the only place that I ever wanted to live growing up. And like I'm from a little beach town in Jersey called Long Beach Island, and I used to watch like Dogtown Z-Boys all the time, and try to I feel like we all just wanted it to be that. We wanted it to be Santa Monica, and it wasn't. So it feels good to be out here. Weather's great. I think at this point I'd want to live here even if it's hard to say, because if I wasn't doing music, that changes a lot of things in my life. I'm like, who am I? But but I definitely, yeah, even if the opportunities were comparable, let's say back home, I would prefer to live here probably. I mean, East Coast will always be home, and I really enjoy going back there. But it's fucking nice out here, dude.
Yeah, but you don't get 65. That's the difference here.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many friends of mine that also moved out to California for more opportunities, whether it was for music or something else too, and like they absolutely they thrive. You know what I mean? My one friend John Howe, he moved from the UK to California to work for Fearless Records, and that was a huge jump for him too. So.
Well, yeah, and I had a story. A homie of mine recently was talking to somebody from Post Malone's management, and he was like, "Oh, like, where are you guys?" It's like, "Oh, I'm in Philly," and the guy just kind of ghosted him. You know what I mean? And like then he like heard back, but it's like sometimes it seems like these people, like, they're like, could be like, okay, this is like, can you be at the studio in an hour or something, and like I just wouldn't want to be the guy that's like, oh, sorry, I live in Newfoundland, is that a problem? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I like being here for, and I just really like I can't vouch for all of LA, but I like where I live a lot. I love my neighborhood. It's really walkable. It's nice, artsy, it's cool.
Wait, is it in Florida that you're recording, or am I wrong?
Yeah, we've been doing work in Florida, so most of the band is in Florida these days. Two of the guys are from there, Colin and Felipe. So Colin has a house down there, and so the three of them live in this house, and it's sort of like the band house. We have a little studio set up down there, so we've been going down there to do work and kind of like pre-pro basically for the record. But it's nice, like, these days everybody, that was a kind of a cool thing about being home. Like I had the opportunity to moved into like a better space where I have like this little studio room that I'm in, and so I'm able to cut vocals from here if I need to or whatever, and we can kind of do some good remote work. But
absolutely.
We have like I think we're getting ready to go into the studio sort of officially with some kind of setup and finish the record. So
yeah, Slaves made an announcement about a month ago on the 26th of March. So I mean, how far along have you guys come for the record in itself? Is it mostly still pre-recorded, or are you getting some tracks kind of finished up in a sense?
think we have at least one that's just pending like final mix master, but that'll probably be the lead single. You know, the evolution of the band has been moving pretty quick in terms of what we're able to accomplish on our own. So, you know, before I jumped on board, Beautiful Death was, you know, at the time it was just Johnny and Colin in the band. And they went in the studio with Eric Ron, who was like really heavily involved in the writing process as well as the production process. So they were kind of co-writing in the studio with him, and then Weston kind of came back into the band during that time and was doing riffs and whatnot, and just, you know, contributing as a writer, and then wound up joining back in. But so, you know, it was very much like, let's go in the studio and let's find a great producer writer that we can work with to flesh out these songs. And then I feel like yours truly came along, and I'm used to doing a lot of like writing, you know. So as much as we're definitely open to co-writing with people, with whether it be like an outside writer or a producer, there was a couple tracks off of the last record that we co-wrote with our producer Jimmy Alexander. You know, I think we also pride ourselves on being the type of band that can, you know, write and record, and now moving towards being able to self-produce things. Like Zach, our drummer, has gotten way better at his like production mixing chops and everything. So we're just noticing these things that we're coming up with, just the five of us now, are way closer to the finish line than they would have been for the last album cycle, and then certainly like for previous lineups. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure the benefit of that too is now that you're able to have more hands on deck for the production value and the recording value of everything too. That's like a huge benefit. It's technically DIY, but it's also nice that you're open to co-writing and all such, because you're co-writing with Escape the Fate, with the new album they just released.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And all that shit. So that's fantastic that everybody's pretty open to a very well communicated idea such as like that. Because some bands do DIY, some bands, it just depends on like the atmosphere that you're in and who you're playing with in a sense.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is for us. It's like becoming increasingly so that, like I said, we can keep it self-contained, and then it's more like, you know, let's work with this specific person because we really like what they as an individual bring to the table. Like, oh, I really like that guy's writing, and I really like his production, and that would really add something to what we're doing. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, I just you know, it's fine. There's some artists like you know, like Elvis was never writing his own shit. You know what I mean? And like you can do it that way too. But to me, the writing is, I guess, the most important, and I consider myself lucky that I'm a good enough singer to sing my own stuff.
It's such a weird thought when you see that kind of stuff, because you get guys like Mick Jagger and Dave Grohl just releasing music, which is just so weird cool to me. But it's so neat at the same time. I mean, especially now, obviously with your experiences talking about, I've kind of had to really just find what you're good at during the pandemic, and obviously doing production and all that stuff from home and forcing yourselves to kind of learn stuff and get outside your comfort zone. It's kind of cool, like, to see artists like an old guy like Mick Jagger be able to do something from the comforts of his own home. Granted, it's Mick Jagger. He can do this. He has the budget for it. But that's not something he really needed to do at all. But
right.
It's just interesting.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, and I know for me, you know, it was something that I wanted to do anyways. Like, okay, I really need to be able to like engineer my own vocals and edit stuff and try to get better at production and whatever. And so it's kind of just forced me to get better at those things, and it's been great. You know.
Yeah, but you've kept your mind open too, because coming from a solo pop artist in a sense, and now that you're in like a rock post-hardcore band within the scene too, was that intimidating? Like, I know that you had like what I think 24 hours to renew your passport, to go to Europe, and yada yada, to play for Slaves when Johnny technically left. Was that how did you feel when you were transitioning into a different scene like that? Was it intimidating? Was it like foreign? Because I knew you used to do bands all the time, like back in the day.
Yeah, so I come from like the band world originally. I always wanted to quote unquote make it in a band. So I grew up having like indie rock bands or whatever, and you know, we were playing kind of sort of like alternative music of that era. But we were living in Jersey, so we play shows. Everybody else was like a crazy screamo band, so I wasn't like that super distant from it, you know. And I listened to some heavier stuff growing up, but I got really into Bring Me around when Sempiternal came out, and I loved that album. It was one of my favorite records, and so I remember thinking like I would love to do something like that at some point, but I didn't really have an outlet for it. When I met up with Kevin Thrasher in the summer of 2018, we were trying to start a project together, which we eventually did, called The Takeaway, and we have a bunch of songs we're trying to put out. And that wound up being much more pop alternative. But I thought, given his background, I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be that more kind of post-hardcore-ish thing. And it wasn't, but it led to the stuff that I've been doing with Slave. So so it was sort of in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. But it was super daunting. It was taking that opportunity like under those circumstances, having never met those guys before, going to places I'd never been, and filling in for like basically being like the wrong guy at the shows or whatever. Like it was super daunting. The most daunting thing about it though was feeling like I was gonna let these dudes down, because I said like, yeah, I can do it, but like I didn't have time to memorize all those songs. I was making up lyrics and everything. Like the first maybe like
that's tough. I was just thinking about that. It's like that would be the most daunting thing in my opinion. But aside from the ancillary stuff of just wondering about what the reception is going to be, because obviously people aren't going to be immediately enthusiastic about that, no matter who you're replacing, negative or positive.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that was the underlying emotional thing. I just worry about like letting people down, and that's part of the reason why I mean, it's great to be part of a band, and it's also can be hard being part of a band. It's like I never liked team sports growing up, because I'm just like, I don't want that you go up for the winning shot or something and you miss it, and everybody's just like, I can't fucking deal with that. I'd rather just like be responsible for myself.
It's tough.
Yeah,
it's good that you have that perspective, because a lot of people lack the perspective of like understanding, hey, you got to carry your load too, and obviously people are relying on you to play your part. And
no, totally, but yeah. And so then when I got there though, and I'm pretty sure Thrasher did say that they were sweethearts, and they proved to be so. And you know what? Like the guys had to be, because of all the crazy lineup changes that the band had went through. Right. By the time I got there, they were built to carry like extremely volatile and controversial band members. Correct. So like, and then I showed up incredibly unproblematic individual, and it was just very easy for everyone. But
they were probably so refreshed, dude. Like, oh, just do you, man, please, for the love of God.
They were just super grateful that I was there and that they didn't have to cancel the tour. And it just like by the second show, we just like knew that was going to be the new lineup, and it was just pretty like magical actually. And we got along really well, and just because there's people that I really like, but I wouldn't want to be in a band with them on a personal level. Right. Like you want it to feel like you're best friends, and you got to have that chemistry, But anyways, I was just worried about letting them down. I was worried about like the crowd reception until I got on stage, and luckily I've done enough shows in my day, and I've done enough like high pressure shit like on TV and whatever. Like as soon as I step on that stage, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I don't give a fuck.
This feels familiar.
Yeah, it's just like when I get on stage, I'm like, okay, like I'm like master of ceremonies now, and like everybody just has to deal with it. You know what I mean? But luckily the reception was super good from the onset. Like people being like, man, I've been a huge Johnny Craig fan, but you killed it, and like really like meaningful interactions that were like kind of motivated me and whatever. And but also too, it's like I was like, it's always been a dream of mine to do some kind of like European UK tour. Like I'd never been to the UK, and so I was like, this is awesome. So even if everybody hated it, I still would have had a laugh,
Yeah, it had been so refreshing though, because I mean, honestly, you weren't the first, vocalist from his previous bands, because you have Dance Gavin Dance and Emarissa, and they're thriving. like through the roof. So I mean,
I know. There's this weird. It's almost like a reverse precedent when it comes to that situation because, Amorosa has done reasonably well. Dance Gavin Dance has done very, very well. So it's sort of like everybody was just kind of giving us the benefit of the doubt, which is kind of interesting. So
well, they just
not everybody.
No, not everybody.
There's a lot of doubt in the beginning, which is easy to forget about now because it seems so positive. But it was very seemed like the chips were stacked against us. But that's one thing I've really learned as an artist throughout this whole process is just your audience is always like one step behind. They're never going to know what's going on. They're never going to be up to date because it's like, look, like we're in the studio making this record right now,
right?
And nobody's heard it. Nobody knows what we're up to. And I remember for that first album, we were in the studio, kind of wrapping the first thing up, and people were, hadn't even heard Heavier yet, and it was just all like 90% hate. And then Heavier comes out, I was like, all right, the song's not so bad, whatever. And then it's another song, like, damn, this song's good too. Damn, this song's pretty good too. Holy shit, actually, and it's just like, yeah, we told you, motherfuckers, but like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like at the same time, like, I could never blame anybody because it's like that you just don't know, and also you get bored of like I'm ready to move on to the next thing before they are for that same reason. So like those comments that meant so much to me in the beginning on that first tour, like I've been a huge fan of Johnny for so long, but like you really crushed it and it meant a lot to me or whatever. Like by the fourth tour, I was like, yeah, thanks, but like I'm just ready for you to hear the record. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, it's just there's this like latency, that you're always kind of dealing with, and that's fine, You
can try your best to bring as much transparency to it when the band does evolve like something like that. Zach and I have had multiple conversations. I think there's a handful of fans that don't like change. They want to stick to what they want to stick to, and Bring Me the Horizon is the perfect example. So long story short, like I do the TikTok thing. The first band of evolution that I did was Bring Me the Horizon because dude, they went from a deathcore band to alternative rock, kind of post-hardcore vibe.
Right.
The comments are divided. So what are you gonna do? Like I like their old stuff. I don't like their new stuff. Well, it is what it is. People change their sound. People want to get into different kind of atmospheres with their writing process. So,
well, and you can't
blame
ask. Yeah, you can't blame the artist. You can't ask for permission either. I think in anything in life, but certainly not as an artist. You have to, if you're asking for permission, you're screwed. Like you have to do what you want to do, and say, hey, if you guys want to come with us on this journey, great. If not, great. And no hard feelings. And you want to build a fan base that expects to meet you and trust you. Like 1975 is a great band for that, where it's like, or Radiohead, or where it's like you never know what the new music is going to sound like. You have no fucking clue, and you just accept it. And even if you hear it the first time, you're like, I don't know. It's like they've set this precedent where it's like, I'm not sure, but I'm probably going to love this in like a month. And that becomes your brand. Like anything can become your brand. And so if your brand is, we don't want to disappoint the fans, and this formula seems to be working, whatever, then you shackle yourself. You know what I mean? And you put yourself in this box, and then you really are at the mercy of like these keyboard warriors and being like, no, that's like another thing. Problem with rock music in general is like there's this expectation of what it's going to sound like, and I think probably a more accurate depiction of rock music should be some kind of more like an attitude than like a sonic thing, because you don't even need like guitars to have it be a rock song nowadays, kind of, whereas like that's what's great about pop music is that there are no sonic characteristics really. It's defined by the success of the music. Correct. So something like when Post Malone first came out, I don't know that you could have called that pop music before it came out, but you certainly can now. And it's the same with somebody like a Billie Eilish. It starts out with this kind of left of center, maybe sort of alternative thing, but it's defined as popular music by its popularity. And so, I think we're seeing kind of more of that in rock nowadays, where it's just like, well, it's got this kind of edgy kind of sound to it.
It's almost like musicians as a whole have been kind of just hesitant to get on that train out of just like reluctancy rather than, hey, I like this and coming to grips with it. Like, it's okay to like whatever is on the top 100. Like, it's okay. Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I feel like that a lot of people, it's especially like the older crowd too, whatever bracket you want to put that in, it's just like you said, they have an expectation of what it's going to sound like. And when you get outside of that, since rock music has been around for so long, it's like just expand your horizons, man. Like, it just because it's not as heavy or edgy as you thought it should be doesn't mean it can't be a rock song.
Yeah, and you know, like, so much of it is like you can really feel whether something is genuine or not. You know, whether somebody's just like, let's mash this up and instead of like going back to Posty, like everything he does feels totally genuine and authentic.
Oh my God.
Because it is. He's like doing some country shit now. It's just like, yep. That sounds good.
And it's amazing. I would love if he put out a country record.
Yeah, well, I think he intends to, but you know, that it's just he's just being himself, you know, and I think, like, you know, with our stuff, we really do pull from a lot of different influences, and I'm pleased with how the new record is going, in kind of in that same light where, you know, I think you could make an album that's very like homogenous and kind of has the same theme and similar sounds. It's still like varied songs, but it's just like, wow, that was a really strong album and it was all one thing. But I love how like eclectic our interests and talents are within the band, and so I'm really pleased to see how the track listing is kind of shaping up, where there's certain things that are like, damn, like that almost could fit on like a little bit edgier track of like the new Bieber record, which is like great because we all are really enjoying that album, you know what I mean? Or like, and then this is like, yeah, that could have been like on the last Bring Me record with like a little bit more like poppy vocal, you know what I mean? And like, but it's just it to me it really feels authentic. And again, like I want to, even if you have to go through a little bit of growing pains, like the payoff of proving to your fan base, like, yeah, this is what we're going to do because this is what we want to do. And like, if there's going to be a lot of different stuff, and then that just becomes your brand. And you'd be surprised how much people can, like, even if you go back to the old like Zeppelin stuff or whatever, you have like Zeppelin 3 starts off like super heavy, and then the rest of it's just like acoustic, and somehow it's all Led Zeppelin, and nobody struggles to like grapple with like, is it a heavy band or is it like a like, if you just like, you get it, and you don't, but sometimes as an artist you're like, how are people gonna, you know, rap this, you know, and it's like they just do, you know,
right?
So and I'm also a big believer in just like letting the song, you know, guide you, and just make the song, and then you don't have to put on the record if you don't want, but like, you know, just let your creativity like pull you in a direction instead of trying to premeditate everything. You know,
you don't want to be compromised by what you think the expectation should be, because at the end of the day, that's the worst thing an artist can do.
On the last record, I feel like we had these elements, and we were trying to follow up, you know, Beautiful Death in like a reasonable way, and I had been touring a lot on those songs, and I was very familiar with like what that vibe was, and I liked that album, so I felt like confident, and I knew what the vibe was, but you know, I feel like that was more like more blended elements of like, okay, we have little trap hats in the backgrounds of things, and I feel like this record will maybe be painting with a little more like primary colors of like instead of having like trap hats in the background, it's like this could just be like, this verse on its own could just be like a pop like trappy verse, and then whatever, you know what I mean, just like being a little bolder with things. And I think you like earn the right to do that as you go, and people respond well to it. It's like, well, let's do more of that, you know?
Yeah, I love the way how you're going about speaking with authenticity with the band, because now it's time for the band to do that, considering the fact that there will be eventually a name change into the new chapter of
yes, sir.
in itself too, which is fantastic. I love how rebranding the entire opportunity for you guys is all there, and now I see more in relevant times in this industry, authenticity is such a huge thing, because now that you even have fans calling out these industry plans where they act like they have they start from the ground up, and they're trying to do everything themselves and stuff, but then once they find out they're actually behind closed doors with big industry people, it's like that kind of takes away the personality of the band itself. So yeah, but I love how you guys are going about that, because now's the perfect time to strike. You obviously made that announcement with the name change. How has the new chapter of this band decided on a name yet? And I know you're not going to like tell it on the podcast and stuff, because that's not fair, but is there any like context clues to kind of like where the name is coming from, if you have chosen it yet already?
Yeah, I think we know what the new name is going to be. It's been tricky because it's very backwards to how the process usually is. Usually you'd come up with a name and then you'd start putting out music, and so it's kind of like it doesn't really matter what the name is, and it could just be something random, but you're always going to have associated that sound with it. And now we have a sound that we're trying to like associate a name to, kind of.
That is tough, yeah.
And it's like, does it need to address like the situation around the name change at all, or like it certainly doesn't? You know what I mean? Like it just needs to be something that is, but it also needs to be something that's just like cool on its own, and that feels like we'd want to do. And every goddamn name is taken.
Yeah. Try getting tags nowadays on social media,
Yeah, and so like the last thing we want to do is like, start up this new name and like cram somebody else's style and like have it be taken or whatever. We want to make sure it's totally something that's free and clear and everything. And just like something that we feel like vibe wise fits the what we're going for and has a cool message and whatever, and like we have to have a decent explanation for it, because people are gonna want to know like, what does this mean? Whereas like Pearl Jam's probably never had to explain their name, and they're just like, well, fuck you, it's Pearl Jam, you know what I mean? Like, whereas like we don't like, that's not the situation we're coming from,
But I think you're pretty fortunate though, because I think it would be pretty easy for the community to at least get behind the reason why that you're doing it.
Yeah,
so,
and like if they can't get it, that's fine. I don't know. People are, it's like some people are of the mindset that it's like, oh, you guys are being snowflakes or blah blah blah.
You
just like
you don't want those people on board anyway. So
totally. Well, and it's just silly to me too, because it's like I think if you listen to the music, like I'm clearly a pretty sensitive individual. I'm just talking about all my damn feelings all the time on the record and all the stuff that I've thought about and whatever. And it's like I think about things and like be like, and like am emotional for a living basically. So it's like, and along those lines again, it's like, I don't care about offending people in general. Like I care about who I'm offending, Mm-hmm. So like if I'm offending like a neo-Nazi, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
But if I'm offending like somebody that's just a good person, that I'm just hurting their feelings, like because I'm being insensitive, like I don't want to fucking do that. You know what I mean? So
especially if you can control it too, that's the worst part. So
yeah, and with the name, it's like this, it's just, I understand what it was supposed to be, you know what I mean? And it's like, slaves to our demons or addictions or whatever. And that is something that not only had meaning to Johnny, but also to other members of the band who've struggled with addiction and everything, and fans and like whatever personal demons. And I totally get that. But it's just such a loaded word, and it's just like insensitive, and right. It's not cool. It's not something that I was ever comfortable with. And being a new member of the band, I was like looking around being like, well, I'm the new guy. Like, so like, what does everybody think of this? And you're like looking towards like the reaction of the fans and the community, and like, how is this being perceived? And like, am I am I weird for thinking that like this is like not cool? But so it was something that we discussed like pretty immediately, like right after we finished that first tour together. Once it was kind of like, okay, this is going to be the new lineup, I was like, so are we changing the name? You know, and we like, it was like sort of started talking about it then, you know, so it's always kind of been a thing. And it's going to be, you know, on some level, it's like, oh, it'd be, you know, there's so much work that goes into branding something and having people like having like name visibility or whatever, but it's just like, it definitely got to the point for me where I was just like, I don't care, even though like this is my dream and it's something that I've always wanted to do, is like be in like internationally touring like successful group and whatever. Like I would have given it all up just for the principle of like I don't feel comfortable going under this name anymore. It's stupid. Right. And I wasn't going to do it anymore. So it was like, dude, we've gone through so many different changes. We've gone through management changes. We've gone through member changes, obviously, whatever. And like, that was the last piece that I feel like was just kind of holding us back and just didn't feel good. And I'm really excited about this new chapter. There's also some other business changes going on behind the scenes that are pretty exciting as well for the new album. So like we're really and like we went through a lot of shit to get here, but I also feel really good about it. Like, you know, like we've talked about before, there is a precedent of bands that Johnny started, you know, moving on without him, but obviously under the same brand. And this will be the first time that hasn't happened. And I think that it's great, even from our perspective, because, you know, like the band could have been a flop with the new lineup. People could have not been here for it, and it could have just whatever. And so I really do see it as a new band, essentially, like when I joined. And so we, you know, it's gonna reflect like, hey, we've been at it since 2020, since To Better Days. You know, we'll have the new name come out under the new single, and we'll tie in the last album as well. And it's just going to be all good vibes. And like, you know, like I also don't want to be mistaken for Johnny Craig for all his
for sure.
Correct.
It's
yeah,
like,
this is your group that you're in now. This is a new chapter. I completely understand that for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to be associated with like the negativity and weirdness of the name, nor the old lineup. And because we are all sweethearts. The five of us, great. We're good dudes. It's not our intention to like, you know, hurt anybody or like offend anybody that we wouldn't want to. So yeah.
Yeah, and also like it just gives you, especially as being like such a fresh member in the group too. I would say, like, you obviously have definitely thought about this. It's going to give you a sense of ownership that it feels like it's more yours rather than you just filled in. Like, obviously that's not the case, but that's always going to be in the back of your head with stuff like that. And it's
totally.
just natural.
Yeah, no, totally. And that definitely is like a benefit. Now, you know, if the band had just been called, you know, anything else, like the Potato Thieves or something, some stupid name, and like it was like, wasn't Johnny Craig used to be in your band and he allegedly did blah 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 blah, like we probably wouldn't have changed the name, and would have always had that like Johnny Bear, you know what I mean, and like you just have to deal with it, and like that, but we would have kept it, you know what I mean, but it was for the name itself, it needed to be changed, and then it's like, okay, and while we're at it, it'll be nice to distance ourselves from the former lineup. And also while we're at it, it'll be nice to be like, yeah, this band has always been the five of us and always will be the five of us, and great. You know what I mean?
There's more good than negative that can come out of this for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And like I'm definitely like a ballsy enough individual that like I'm like, yeah, let's just like go for it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, sure, man.
It's definitely the perfect storm to rebrand everything, because like we were just talking earlier, dude, it's literally, this is the band. This is everybody in the band. All these members are set. The new music is what it is. There's never a better time to do it than right now. But at the same time, you know, on social media, there's a lot of people that are so for this and are backing it entirely. They're just
totally, man,
anticipating like that announcement, like they're ready, like, oh, like I'm so stoked to hear what they have to say and the meaning behind it. So I mean, dude, the authenticity is definitely there that people are definitely latching on to without any question or hesitation.
Well, I feel really good about it, and I think even like from like the title of the album and everything, and like the branding of it, and I think people will dig it. So.
Oh, I'm sure you guys are experimenting a little bit too with how you're going about the new sound.
Yeah, it's. I think people are gonna like it. I don't know. We've showed a couple of tracks to some close friends of the band, and the reactions have been really good. Like
is there something certain that you're going for with this?
Well, I've always said one of the goals of this band is to open for Bring Me for sure, and they're like one of our favorite bands, and so we do take a lot of inspiration from them. I mean, we like some of that bigger like production sound, like kind of more like electronic industrial kind of stuff is really cool. And then again, just really just really leaning into even more some of the elements that we were more of like that melding pot all stirred up on the last track. It's like, just okay, let's just have a track that's like I said, could almost be on like the Bieber record, just like because we can, and just but I don't know, man. I'll be excited for people to hear it. And as much as I really like the last record we did, to better days, I mean, I like it a lot. I think that this one's gonna be pretty sick. I'm pretty proud of the lyricism so far. That's like the thing that's most important to me. I've written some pretty dope shit so far, so we'll see.
We're excited, man. We can't wait.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Every time I do one of these TikTok things, we didn't talk about it too much, but I kind of like want to compare sounds with anybody who I'm trying to like showcase within that one video and such. And Dayseeker, Siamese, you guys, Until I Wake, and I did I did Sandvar. It's like a Dance Gavin Dance side project, but it's so interesting how. There is this it's kind of like a cult fan base, dude. Like they know Dayseeker, and then they say, "Oh, Slaves, dude! Like, man, that track's killing it, dude." Or like it'll be vice versa. Like, Slaves is so underrated. Wow, I didn't know about Dayseeker. I feel like this is, and it has all this Bring Me the Horizon feel as well, with a vibe of the structure
for sure,
of the
dude.
music and stuff. So I think, as Jack said earlier a couple times, he said it a couple times, but it's going to be like a renaissance of the music industry with all these bands coming out of the gate and going on tour when the opportunity presents itself.
There's so much like, Dayseeker is a great example of a band that we definitely see ourselves like, I don't know, like, as much as genres have sort of evaporated, it would be, I kind of wish that there was a name for, because probably anybody that's likes Dayseeker would like what we're doing, and vice versa. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that sort of, you hear sort of like the more old guard, like active rock bands, and then you hear like us or like Bring Me or Dayseeker or something on Octane, and I'm just like, ooh, that sounds like very current. You know what I mean? And still kind of fits the bill. So and shout out to Octane for not just pushing kind of a older format, but like putting on bands like us, and even picking songs from our record that we didn't think that they would go for, but we're happy
awesome.
They did,
Yeah, dude, the more the merrier. You just gotta get the music out there. How excited were you when you guys got the green light to go to Europe for Siamese to tour with them?
Well, I don't think I was very excited at all, and the reason was I like didn't have my hopes up that it would happen. Yeah, I was just like, what is that? A year from now? Yeah, we'll see what the world is like then. It just kind of every day, I'm like increasingly more optimistic about it. But I'm just, I tend to, I'm kind of a strange bird in that respect. Anyways, I tend to not really get excited about things until they're happening. I'm trying to get a COVID vaccine this week, and I like live my life pretty cautiously with all that kind of stuff, but I'll definitely want to be vaccinated, I think, before I go overseas. I don't want to be on a ventilator in Prague or something and be like, no, you can't see anyone before you die.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please,
Like,
yeah,
fuck
Zach and I
that.
are the same way. Zach, I think is fully vaccinated, and I just don't
Yeah, I got
qualify
my
in Pennsylvania
February.
because I don't fit the specific,
Okay.
bullet points to like what because I'm not as vulnerable as a lot of other people, which is totally cool. So I'm just being patient, just sitting at home waiting for that. That's why we
Nice.
can't do the podcast in person either, because I'm the
Yeah.
last person to also get vaccinated. So
Got
you just can't go out, dude. You just gotta do your best. And then you also have the Rebel Rock that festival coming up too. So I mean, as long as everybody gets a fair opportunity in vaccination, we can kind of see it. But like you said, you don't want to get your hopes up too, because
Yeah, no, totally. But I mean, man, I think I am really looking forward to doing shows again, and I think my perspective is going to be like, I'm just gonna. I feel like in the past, I would, as like the front man, I would really do my best to like make sure it's a good show, and I like jump in the crowd and really try to be like,
yeah,
enjoy this. You know what I mean? Like, wake up. And like now I feel like I'm just gonna stand there and be like, this is amazing, where this is actually happening, and I hope and think that the audience it's gonna be the same thing, because we're gonna be like, oh my god, live music, this is incredible. Like, we're not gonna be desensitized to it, at least for a while. So
what was the last show you guys did?
it was a show in Florida at the end of 2019.
Oh wow, you weren't even on the road back in before the album release then.
Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy.
So like the only 2 songs we've ever played in front of an audience are Heavier in Prayers, and that's it.
mm-hmm.
So we still have like the whole rest of the album to tour on, and
that's pretty cool, man.
The goal is to at least play, at least have at least one new single out. I'd like to have more by this fall tour run, But it's like I said, all that last album is going to be under the new name, and that's what's tricky too. It's like people have a lot of questions about the name change, and I totally get it. Again, unfortunately, everybody's always one step behind, but it's like it's the exact same people, exact same record that we would have made, like following up the last one. It's just like the name change is something that we feel needs to happen, and we're excited to do it. But yeah, it's like with To Better Days, I felt, as we all did, like a certain need to prove to people like, hey, just because there's a new singer, it's not going to be like a totally different thing, and I don't think we would have made a totally different thing anyways. And now I'm almost like, this if we didn't change the name, this would have maybe been a chance for us to kind of branch out even more. But I almost feel a duty to be like, hey, just because it's a different name, like, it's still going to be the same. You know what I mean? So maybe by the next album, we can kind of experiment a little more. I don't know. But like I said, I think we already are anyways. We're just kind of making a natural follow-up is kind of how I see it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, it'll be interesting. I can't wait to go over there. Like, as much as I've loved, singing stuff that I didn't write over there to people, and like, and I really did. I really do love singing, shit ton, and I internalized those songs and lyrics and made them my own best I could. But like, it can't compare to hearing like people in Germany like sing like Witch Hunt or something back to you or whatever it's gonna be, So, or like talk to a friend, like, and like that whole last album was like really cathartic experience for me writing it, and I was able to channel like a lot of stuff that like all this pent up like emotion that I had, and I forced myself to like go back and relive and rehash for the sake of doing the record, which is like not super fun on some level, but so it'll be great to kind of get that payoff live, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. It's all gonna be it's like once it actually happens, it's just gonna be like a fucking wave of serotonin, you know what I mean? Because you seem like the more intimate, you seem like an intimate type with not only your lyrics but with the crowd. Because when you did the live stream, the performance was the live at Whiskey with To Better Days when you did that release, and you can tell that every single person in that band's like, man, I just want to crowd surf while I'm playing bass with my wireless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, no, it'll be awesome. So hoping that the vibe is good too with the shows, and that we can meet people and whatever. I will say it had that there's limited positives, But I feel like one positive that's come out of this past year is like I haven't got sick once.
Same.
And it makes sense because I just stay home and wear a damn mask all the time. But like,
oh my God, it works.
yeah, right. Like, yeah, exactly. But like, I usually, I get a sinus infection like every tour we go on or something, and like whatever.
Yeah, for sure,
and so it's been, I don't know. On one hand, it'd be sick, like to, I don't know, like. I want to meet everybody, but I also like not getting sick.
Right, so, considering being the vocalist as well.
Too. Considering
you don't want your sinuses. Yeah, dude, that's gotta be the worst. I hope you don't have allergies either.
My allergies are not too bad.
My
girlfriend,
especially in LA, man, that's like paradise for you then.
Dude, yeah, she's dying right now with the allergy. She's waking up I really think she's gonna need like an inhaler or something. She's like dying, and I'm pretty good. Yeah, man, I don't know. Just
sinus infections. When you're in the middle of tour, shaking everybody's hands.
Yeah, if you get like, even if you don't feel that bad, if you just get like a little too much phlegm on your vocal cords, it's just gonna be like, and just not gonna happen. And you're just gonna be like, well, there's nothing I can do about this, and it just sucks, man. It's like, if I was just playing rhythm guitar or something, like I could have the flu and do pretty well, But,
yeah, and you're a professional behind it too, because like when I was watching that show, the live show, when I was like going back on YouTube and watching it, like you have a lot of control with how much you project with your voice as well. I feel like you have the capability to do it throughout an entire tour. Like I feel like you save yourself, like you know what I'm saying? Like you're not gonna like holler range too far up, especially like in the chorus. You kind of bring it back and let somebody else like back you up, which is very good for you in that case, because now you're making your instrument have more of a longevity than some of these.
I definitely like pride myself on not just like first show time to go for broke, like and like
God.
even if people would maybe want to hear me do whatever, like I have to be responsible for me, and only I know my voice and how it's feeling on any given whatever, and it's like my first job is to make it through the whole tour, you know what I mean? And so and then that's what's fun about like the last show of a tour. First of all, you're like super, if you survived it, you're like super warmed up and acclimated and probably going to sound great anyways. And then it's that last night, you can really kind of let it rip. But yeah, it's like I do all my melodic alterations when I need to, and I have certain things in mind or whatever. And so for sure, that's another thing we're going to experiment a little bit on this new record as well. We've already been talking about, like, because there's certain ones where I'm just like, all right, this is the upper limit of what I'm capable of singing, like range wise, but it sounds great on record. So like, let's do it, and then let's figure out a way to like drop this down a couple steps live or a step and a half or whatever, just to make it workable live. But because I like the idea of committing to record like the sickest shit that I can do vocally, but I want it to be like workable live consistently every night,
good for you for challenging yourself that way, man. That's pretty
awesome. Well, yeah, and it's just like, hopefully I can have my cake and eat it too, because in the past I was always super mindful of it, and I was really conservative about like how much I was pushing my voice, because I didn't want it to crap out live. And then I jump into this thing, and it's like you got these big shoes to fill, and like everybody, it's like the scene is notorious for like people writing songs that are too high for them to sing, whatever. So like I'm like, well, I gotta put the best shit I can do, and so I did, and I'm really proud of that, because one day I'll be an old man and I'll be like, damn, that's a high C, good job, buddy, but
still teaching lessons and shit.
Yeah, and I'm like definitely like singing some crazy ass notes on this new shit, but I'm putting it in like a little background vocal or whatever, so I don't really have to do it. But like, yeah, I want to do like the best shit I can vocally, and then just figure out a way to like even Bieber's new stuff or whatever. What's that? If it's not you, it's not anyone. Like he does so many like looking back on my life, you're the only one, instead of looking back on my life, whatever, going to super high. Yeah. And it sounds great, and like nobody cares. It's just like that's it, Yeah,
and he also had that range, especially when he was a kid too. Thank God, like you don't have to fill in shoes for screaming, because that's a whole nother ball game and another monster
thing, bro.
To put yourself into.
Totally, and like I have a I had some like vocal training. Obviously, I was when I was in school as a vocal major, and I got more private instruction when I was on The Voice, and so I learned a lot. But nobody covered anything like that for sure. So I just as a general rule of thumb, I was like, I've always had a little bit of grit like in my upper register, just kind of naturally. And so I just was like, okay, if it's kind of coming out naturally like that, cool. And just like, I've sort of I've done some research on my own since then, and I feel that's still something that I'm playing with. And like you'll hear it on the new record. There's some like some of the really high shit that I'm singing. It's just like almost like some of the stuff. I don't know if it'll make it, but some of it was almost more like the Architects, like really high screamy vocal stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty dope, man.
I just showed Zach Architects for the first time. He was digging at the end of the song.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm always being like, oh, I don't know, I could do that. I'm just still like learning, But yeah, want to make it workable live. So
the thing about that beast was nobody really knew how to properly take care of your vocals when you were actually screaming, and a lot of vocalists over the years like those fry screams, like there was no proper technique, and you would just see them kind of like tap out after like maybe 10 years of their career stuff. And like going back to Bring Me, like Ollie Sykes like was one that had to get surgery and had to like reconstruct the way like he was singing and stuff. And then Melissa Cross, the genius behind the Zen of Screaming, really put the logic out there of how to properly scream, and she has helped a lot of screamers too.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, no, totally, no, and I think it's great, and I've like, for me, I'm glad that I'm able to utilize like just some of the grittier like kind of vocal distortion stuff that I sort of naturally do and lean into it and learn about it more. And it's all good, because before doing my pop shit, I was like, oh, I gotta find like I wasn't able to find like a home for everything that I'm interested in and that I'm capable of. Whereas now I feel like I have obviously work I do with Slaves, and then project with Thrasher with the Takeaway is like most of that's kind of just like a pop group, sort of more like alternative, whatever. And then when I eventually make solo music again, probably just be like singer-songwriter, acoustic, like stripped down, whatever. And that kind of encompasses like everything that I want to do, and I feel really good about it. And it did kind of suck trying to figure out what to do as a solo artist before, when that was all that I was doing, because it was like I can't fit all of it in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. No, but just the fact that like the way that this band is evolving has gotten such good feedback. Like I think everybody's just very like antsy to hear everything else that's about to come out, dude. Like it's kind of
cool, man. Well, yeah, no, and you talk about authenticity earlier as well. Like I think this group came at a really good time for me as well, because I felt pretty burnt out as a solo artist by that point, and as much as it was a change of pace for me, like all the songs on To Better Days feel as authentic and true to me and as honest as anything I've ever done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I was able to, writing over those instrumentals, I was able to like write stuff that was more like coming from a more dark and like aggressive place, and actually a lot more like kind of like hip hop inspired stuff too than I was able to do before, in terms of like sort of like rappy phrase versus like a talk to a friend or something, just because of just how the track sounds. So yeah, I like all that stuff, and I'm excited for people to hear it. Hopefully I won't have already moved on by the time everybody gets to hear it. I think I have.
But yeah, the future looks bright for the band itself, for you, Matt, and for the rest of the Slaves, for the new chapter evolving with what you guys are going to bring out for the near future, with everything that's going to be authentic with the writing of the new songs and stuff. So I'm super stoked for that. And I already talked to Andreas from Siamese. This episode's already out, so I think you guys are gonna have a good time if that tour happens, and I hope it does too. So
I think that it will as well.
But I appreciate you coming on, Gio. Thank you so much. It was
all right.
It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Cool.
Absolutely.